There were signs warning you to be careful and respectful of the ancient inhabitants of this land, but it's too late now. Standing by yourself in the desert on a cool October night, you were suddenly and painfully aware you should have heeded the warnings, as two small dots of blood on your ankle began to grow larger, then turned to two slow but steady streams of blood, except it's not your blood anymore. It's a pink emulsified slurry of the shattered pieces of your blood cells. An agonizing burning sensation begins to fill your veins that were full of healthy blood only a second before. Proper respect was not given to this beast, and now you are melting, one cell at a time. On this channel, I try to show reptiles in a positive light, highlighting their role in the ecosystem, as well as their aversion to interacting with people in general, let alone the idea they want to attack people. But there is a reason snakes are as feared as they are, and have literally been a stand-in for evil in some of the oldest traditions around the world. Venomous snakes have developed horrifying concoctions made from naturally occurring peptides in their body that can disfigure, maim, kill prey, and even some predators. Sometimes even from beyond the grave, long after the snake that did the biting is long dead. In honor of Halloween being around the corner and my patrons who chose today's video topic, today we will be diving into the horrors of just a few of the scariest snake venoms in the world. While I stand by telling people snakes shouldn't be feared, today's video should serve as a reminder as to the very real damage these animals can do when not properly respected. Starting with this unassuming black noodle of a snake, it is not the scariest snake, and its venom usually isn't even that lethal, but some ordeals might be even scarier than death. This is a species of snake commonly referred to as stiletto snakes. They get their name from how well they can rock high heels. Wait, no, that's not right. It says here they are named after the knife, not the shoe, which is a much better start to making them scary already. They get their intimidating name from their unique method of envenomating their prey. Stiletto snakes are a group of African fossorial snakes belonging to the Atractaspidae family and the Atractaspis genus, and they get their name from their specialized method of delivering their venom. Because stiletto snakes often hunt for food in narrow subterranean burrows, they needed a way to bite and inject venom, even when there is not physically any room to open their mouth or properly strike inside of constricted narrow tunnels. To solve for this, stiletto snakes developed a viper-like selenoglyphous fang that connects to the top of the jaw via a socket-like joint that allows these snakes to bite further out of the side and rear of their mouth without the need to ever open their mouth. This ability is often paired with a fast head turn, which produces a stabbing motion capable of quickly envenomating rodents unlucky enough to try scurrying past a stiletto snake, blocking the exit to their burrow. This ability also makes them extra difficult to work with in captivity, as you cannot grab them behind their head like other venomous snakes. The good news for us is, like all snakes, stiletto snakes do not want to waste their venom and will avoid contact with people. That's about where the good news ends though. If someone is foolish enough to restrain a stiletto snake behind the head, the snake will quickly eject a fang out the corner of its mouth, delivering a small dose of Sarafotoxins and potentially cytotoxins. Your saving grace after a bite from this species is its relatively small venom yield that was intended to kill small rodents. But just because it was meant to kill a rodent doesn't mean it can't do a number on humans. Currently, there is no specific antivenom for the snake, and its effects can take months to fully leave the body, usually taking at least a toe or other digit with them. Thanks to some well-known bite photos from this species, their venom has also garnered a reputation for probably being cytotoxic and having the ability to melt bone. The most potentially life-threatening component of the venom, though, is the Sarafotoxin I mentioned earlier. Sarafotoxins are an indirect cardiotoxin that functions by mimicking a normal peptide found in humans called endothelins. Normally, the role of endothelins in the body is to act as a vasoconstrictor. When too many endothelins are produced in the body, it constricts blood veins and can lead to high blood pressure. So when a stiletto snake envenomates a person, forcibly adding Sarafotoxins to their blood, the same thing happens. The Sarafotoxin acts like the endothelins naturally produced in the body and begins constricting veins and increasing the victim's blood pressure. In the most extreme of cases, this can lead to heart attack and even death. Again, there is no specific antivenom for stiletto snakes, but deaths from them are still rare. So how bad is the next snake on this list that, even with 40 vials of antivenom, survival still isn't a sure thing?
We have more pictures of that venomous snake that could have cost him his life.
A bite that made his left hand swell up all the way to his wrist.
Gaboon vipers are sometimes mistakenly considered a beginner venomous snake because of their stout bodies and being relatively slow moving. But with vipers, the danger doesn't come from how fast they move, but from how fast they strike. Gaboon vipers happen to also have one of the fastest strikes in the world, leading most victims of their bite to have no idea what is happening until it's too late. Once injected with Gaboon viper venom, the pain will be almost instantaneous. Unlike the stiletto snake, Gaboon vipers have massive heads and matching venom glands that produce the second highest venom yield of any venomous snake. Side note, if you know the one species of snake that has a higher venom yield than Gaboon vipers, then go ahead and leave it in the comments down below and you'll get to see if you were right later in this video. Anyway, after a bite from a Gaboon viper, victims usually experience a drop in blood pressure, eventually followed by spontaneous hemorrhaging throughout the body thanks to an enzyme in Gaboon venom called zinc metalloproteinase. Metalloproteinases are fairly common in viper venoms and are largely responsible for their hemorrhagic effects, which means snake venom metalloproteinases, or SVMPs, are basically the part of the venom that causes blood veins to rip apart from the inside and begin to leak. But the damage caused by SVMPs is not limited to just making you bleed out internally. It also gives fun snakebite side effects that we all know and love, like skin damage, local inflammation, and myonecrosis, which is basically where the blood supply to your muscles in the area you got bit becomes so disrupted that your muscle tissue begins to rot on your body. But as I said, SVMPs are present across a wide range of viper venoms, so it's not so much as a unique component of Gaboon viper venom that makes them so terrifying, but that massive venom yield that really pushed the Gaboon viper into making this top 3 list. Gaboon vipers, on average, can produce 2 full grams of dried venom from one milking, where an eastern diamondback, the largest viper in the entire US, produces, on average, only 410 milligrams of dried venom per bite. This means Gaboon vipers have the potential to deliver the venom equivalent of over 4 massive eastern diamondback bites in just one bite, delivered at one of the fastest strike speeds of all vipers. So here's the thing, Gaboon vipers do not eat other snakes, so the name king viper doesn't fit them like it does fit the king cobra, but I don't think it's inaccurate to think of them as the king of all vipers. Oh yeah, and that's the one snake that produces more venom than the Gaboon viper. It happens to be the king cobra, which I think is less impressive when you take into account the king cobra can grow to around 4 times the size of the Gaboon viper. Now before getting into the last bone-chilling snake venom that you don't want to miss, I'd like to bring up just a few honorable mentions that could have been on this list but just didn't make the cut. I would have liked to discuss the venoms of all these species, but was limited by time. That being said, if you are interested in learning more about any of these snakes, let me know down in the comments which one sounded the most interesting to you, because in the future I think it would be fun for me to make, and hopefully fun for you to watch, videos about specific case studies and bite outcomes. So let me know which runner-ups you would like to see videos on in the future, and if you want even more control over the videos I make, or just want to help support my channel, you can sign up to help keep the channel going for as little as $3 a month on Patreon. This video topic was the October choice of my patrons, so if you are enjoying this video, they're the ones you want to thank, and if you'd like to vote on November's Patreon video, there is still time for you to sign up and help pick November's patron topic. Now with those honorable mentions and my eternal gratitude to my patrons out of the way, let's get into the scariest venom that has the highest potential to ruin most of my audience's lives. This snake is not the most deadly or even the most damaging of the snakes that I have listed today. The terror with this last snake comes largely from the healthcare system surrounding it. Yeah, this might be a bit of a cop-out, but I'm going to go ahead and say that any rattlesnake bite in the US is going to be a terrifying bite. Not because you are likely to die, the Stiletto Snake I started this video with is also not likely to kill you, but where the Stiletto Snake made the list because of the physical suffering victims of their bite must endure, venomous bites in the US make this list for being one of the only snake venoms capable of draining your health and bank account. Now first thing is first, we are very lucky in the US to have access to medical treatment and antivenoms after a bite. There are usually fewer than 10 deaths attributed to snake bites in the US every year, and many of these are unusual cases where the victims suffered from comorbidities that made the bite worse, or they got bit in a particularly bad/stupid way, like kissing a rattlesnake or not seeking medical attention after a bite, compared to other parts of the world with higher levels of poverty and lower levels of medical access. We are very lucky in the US. Every day people die from treatable snake bites all over the world. For example, the saw-scale viper still kills 4,000 to 5,000 people in India every year, and the global annual death toll attributed to venomous snakes is nearly 20,000 a year. So the US contributing only 10 to 15 deaths a year to that total is an impressive accomplishment, and something that cannot be overlooked. But like I said earlier, this list is about the scariest snake venoms, and for many bite victims in the US, the scariest part of their snake bite ordeal comes after they have survived the bite. Currently, treatments for rattlesnake bites often fall between $80,000 and $250,000, but some extreme cases have left patients with medical bills closer to $500,000, and this is largely just a result of the US healthcare system. In 2015, Dr. Leslie Boyer, an amazing antivenom researcher based out of U of A's Viper Institute, began trying to understand why the antivenom produced in her own lab was being sold to patients at such a high markup. Dr. Boyer found that only 2.1% 27.1% of the cost came from conducting clinical trials, 27.7% of the cost came from licensing, regulation, compliance, and hospital profit, and the overwhelming majority of the cost comes from hospital markups used when negotiating prices with insurance companies. So you might be wondering now, how much of the cost of antivenom actually goes into creating the antivenom? This includes the research, the development, the animal care, and plasma harvesting. Drum roll, please. And the grand total is 0.1%. 0.1% of the price we pay for bite treatment actually goes to producing antivenom, and if how something like this is possible interests you, I recommend checking out the 2017 episode of Adam Ruins Everything About Hospitals. I'll put a link to the episode in the description for anybody interested in the specifics of how hospitals are forced to increase their prices solely for the purpose of working with insurance companies. Now, of course, the most devastating effects of this system fall on those without health insurance because they're still responsible for paying the inflated prices the hospitals had to create for the insurance companies, and is how you end up with stories like this.
This man is talking to 10 News about the encounter that nearly took his life.
It bit him right on his hand. Took full supplies of antivenom from 2 hospitals to save his life.
Thought if I had him by the neck, he wouldn't bite me, but he turned around and bit me anyways.
And Kim, guess how much it cost? He said it was about $50,000 in bills.
But anyway, got out of the hospital, went home, back to life. I get the medical bill. All total, between the hospital bill and the doctor's bill, $580,000.
Adam Thorn, who you may recognize from the History Channel series Kings of Pain, lays out his entire ordeal after receiving a Southern Pacific rattlesnake bite. That full video is in the description for anybody that is interested in it, but the biggest attention grabber besides how poorly the antivenom worked in his case and how ill-prepared the hospital was to treat him was the over $500,000 medical bill he received for the treatment. And to add in a personal note here, a few years ago I was attending a biology of snakes symposium in southern Arizona, and the running joke amongst some of the more seasoned herpers in attendance was they would rather drive to Mexico than Douglas if we got bit by anything because of how much cheaper the treatment would be. Turns out this wasn't so much of a joke. In Dr. Boyer's analysis of why the antivenom coming out of her lab was so expensive, she found that a vial of antivenom sold for $100 in Mexico had a US equivalent sister product being sold for anywhere between $7,900 and $39,000. As terrifying as these price tags are, they are not the exception, but the general rule for how medications are priced at hospitals in the US. And now this system is starting to have ripples that will further diminish antivenom availability around the world. Because so little of the cost of antivenom goes to the production of antivenom, it is becoming unprofitable for companies in Africa to make antivenom, and even then, it is often more profitable to sell it to providers in the US than to locals who cannot afford the antivenom or distrust antivenom over traditional remedies that may or may not do anything at all. This has resulted in multiple producers not selling enough antivenom to be profitable, and consequently ceasing production. In 2015, Doctors Without Borders sounded the alarm that the world was running out of antivenom due to dwindling stockpiles of antivenom that was no longer in production, and in 2017, the World Health Organization categorized snake bites as a neglected tropical disease, which I think sounds kind of nice. What? No, I wasn't bitten by a snake, I just got a tropical disease. On second thought, maybe not. Kind of sounds more like a fruity drink you could order at a dive bar. Yeah, I'd like an IPA, and can I get a tropical disease for my wife? No, that ain't it either. But in all seriousness, as weird as calling snake bites a tropical disease might seem, this designation freed up funding and other resources to begin looking for solutions in our globally broken antivenom supply chains, as well as funding local on-the-ground efforts in communities of need to provide better treatments and outreach to those that can't afford or don't trust Western medicine. This is just a start, but it at least shows a shift in how the global medical community thinks about and prioritizes antivenom production. But I have gotten way off track now. This final section was just supposed to be about how any venomous snakebite in the US is terrifying and capable of saddling anyone with life-ruining debt, and in the near term, the WHO changing how they look at venomous snakebites globally isn't likely to change anything for us here in the US. So for the time being, I have to call rattlesnake bites in the US one of the most frightening bites you can receive. They have the ability to produce necrotic effects similar to the Stiletto Snake, they can produce a lesser version of the hemorrhagic effects of Gaboon viper venom, and they are possibly the most likely snake in the world to empty your life savings with just one bite. Ooh, there it is, my spooky venoms video for spooky season. Don't know what I'm doing. What is this, ghosts, I guess? I don't know. I hope you all enjoyed it and stuck around through that hard pivot when I got to the last snake. I am sure no one expected this video to go there. I didn't expect this video to end like this, but the more research I did, the more the inaccessibility of anti-venom where it is needed most and the price of it in the US kept seeming like one of the scariest venom topics I could possibly discuss, and I just couldn't leave it out. So drop a like if you liked it, dislike it if you disliked it, and with that, I would like to thank the patrons that made this video possible and chose this video topic, starting with my head herpers, Lavenders, Deborah Torgerson, Bobby Cromer, Lindsay Justice, and Amanda Lynn, along with all the other outstanding names scrolling down the screen right now that chose this video topic. And just one last reminder, if you would like to add your name to this list and directly support this channel, you can sign up for as little as $3 a month. And with that, I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your week. I hope none of you catch a tropical disease, but most of all, I hope that you just keep herping.